Welcome on in the draft show with Joe Giglio as we do all these nights leading up to the 2021 NFL Draft. Happy to be back again. Next half hour or so, answering questions, taking your comments. I almost said taking calls. We don't take calls on live Facebook shows, but your comments are almost like taking calls. So listen, hop in. I want us to be interactive as we talk draft. We're getting close to them. And look, the NFL Draft is what, maybe 9 days away? It's next Thursday night is the first round. Eagles right now sitting at number 12, but I don't know many people that expect them to stay at 12. Here's what I want to start with this. There's been rumors the last couple of days the Eagles could trade back. They could trade out of number 12, move further down the draft board, accumulate more assets. Also some rumors out they could trade back in to the top 10. If you could only have one of the two, what do you want? Trade up or trade down? I would trade down. Like my ideal now for the Eagles is to continue to stockpile as many assets as possible for the next couple years and to use those assets to move around the board. Like in my ideal world, the Eagles would have so many draft picks, and they have 20. I mean, they basically do. But they'd have so many draft picks over this year and next year that at any point in the draft, if there's a player they like that has kind of fallen down the draft board or they didn't expect him to be in range and they're 10 or so picks away and they're like, man, it's really testing it. Can he actually, last to our next pick? Go up and get him. You have the surplus of picks. Go up and get him. I would be actually, unless, look, if J.C. Horn is there, you probably heard me say J.C. Horn has become my new guy. Kyle Pitts was my first guy. J.C. Horn is my new guy. If J.C. Horn is off the board before 12, I would be all in on trading down and getting out of 12, going back to 15 or 16. Now, there's probably going to be a quarterback. I don't think that all five quarterbacks are going to go boom, 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 especially if Mac Jones does not end up in San Francisco. Now, if Jones ends up in San Francisco, it could set off the domino of someone moves up for Justin Fields or Lance, and they're all off the board by like number 9. But if Mac Jones falls, I could see him getting into the 10, 12, 13, 14 range. Someone's going to want a quarterback, whether it's the Chicago Bears at 20 or the Washington football team or the Patriots. Like one of those teams, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, they're going to want that falling quarterback. And the Eagles should be the team to take advantage of that. Imagine if they get another first-round pick for next year and have 4, or even get a second-round pick in this year's draft just to move down a few spots. They probably could still get a quality offensive lineman or still get a quality player, maybe a defensive end, because people are saying, well, defensive end, it might be high to pick a defensive end in this year's draft at number 12. So if I had to choose, trade up or trade down, I would trade, again, back from number 12. How about you guys? We'll look at the Facebook comments here, and we'll take your thoughts. We were just about 9 days away from the 2021 NFL Draft. Eagles sitting at number 12. Rumors they could move up, they could move down. Now, if they do move up, let's tackle that scenario. If the Eagles do move up, there's a couple spots I think make sense. There was a rumor today, Adam Schefter had it, that the Carolina Panthers are open for business to move out of number 8. So that would be a natural trade partner for the Eagles. If Carolina truly is satisfied at quarterback with Sam Darnold, who they got from the New York Jets, then they're probably not that team that's looking to see if that 5th guy falls. That they probably are at least okay now with their quarterback situation. If they want to move back, and I think they have a very small number of picks in this year's draft, so they might be on the opposite end of the spectrum of the Eagles where they need extra picks. So if Carolina wants to trade down from 8, I saw earlier today that Elliott Shore-Parks, he was kind of looking at the trade value chart and what it would cost. Elliott basically thinks it would take a second-round pick or so to move up from 12 to 8. So, I mean, the net gain there in all this is if the Eagles could still end up with the player they really like, and whoever that is, maybe it's Jalen Waddle or it's Patrick Surtain. Like, if they could end up with the guy they want, basically moving from 6 to 8 at the end of the day, right? They started at 6, ended 8, and they basically swap a second-round pick for a first. That would be a good move by the Eagles if they get the guy they really want and maybe have wanted the whole time. I could see that. Like, if they're locked in on or they're sitting there at the NovaCare complex and they're grinding every night trying to figure out what the heck to do here, and they have Patrick Surtain and Jalen Waddle like way up here, and then Devontae Smith and everybody else and J.C. Horn down here, and they really want to get one of those two guys, I could see them trading up. But if I had my way, if I could only choose between trading up or trading back, I would trade back. I don't think the Eagles are one player away. I don't think this should all be about 2021. I think they should be looking at the longest view in the room and finding a way to have the most capital in terms of cap room, which they're going to have a bunch of cap room, and draft pick capital over the next 2 years, because that's gold. It's gold, especially if Jalen Hurts pans out and they have a good young quarterback. It's gold to build a roster. Like, they could be, imagine a year from now if Hurts is good and they have 80 million or 70 million or 60, whatever it's going to be in cap room. Yeah, they'll have a bunch of draft picks, but they could also trade a third-round pick here or a fourth-round pick here for a veteran wide receiver or a veteran corner or a veteran, left end, or like whatever they need. And they can go out there and add those guys to the puzzle to go quickly turn this thing around. And I keep saying it because it really does remind me of what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. That was a franchise that really had sunk off their Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and they'd become a very mediocre team, and then it turned around fast. All right, let's look at the Facebook here. Comments, questions, concerns, thoughts on my shirt here. Let's talk to Matt. Says Flip-Flop Joe wants this guy, that guy. He probably wants the Eagles to take a quarterback. No, I don't. I mean, I've been clear on that for a long time. If the Eagles take a quarterback in the first round, first of all, it'd be ridiculous because they traded back. This is an historic quarterback class. In terms of 5 guys, could go in the top 8 or 9. So, the Eagles were in that spot. And they could have, if the Eagles wanted to, they could have easily traded up to where the Niners did at number 3 to get a quarterback. They're not taking one in the first round. They shouldn't take one in the first round. They've got a young quarterback, and his name is Jalen Hurts, and I like him a whole lot. Leon said we should stay put and take Surtain if he's there. Best available because we have nothing at cornerback. Well, cornerback is a legitimate concern, right? I mean, there's no question. I mean, cornerback for the Eagles is it's not. I mean, a hole is putting it mildly. Like, Darius Slay's on one side, and I was disappointed by Darius Slay in his first year as an Eagle. I thought he was way more okay than he was anything close to great. And I thought teams were unafraid to throw at him. Like, go back to the Steelers game when Chase Claypool did what he did. Like, Ben Roethlisberger's just throwing at Darius Slay all day long. No fear of big play Slay. And then you got into the later part of the season, and the best quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, I mean, they took advantage of him. Like, there was no fear to play against that guy. I was disappointed in Slay. They restructured his deal. Of all the Howie Roseman restructures, and I want to talk about Howie here in a minute, but of all the Howie Roseman restructures, the one that there's really only one that I worry about long term, kind of moving his money forward and elongating how long he'll be here, is Darius Slay, because he wasn't good last year. I mean, we were sold great. He's not great anymore. I'm hoping for still good, but that's one spot. The other spot is the real worry. Like, I'm ranting on Slay here. It's the other spot. They've got nothing there. Avonte Maddox, nope, see ya. Like, he's not an outside corner. We've seen it now for years. He's not an outside cornerback. So, yeah, they need something there. And think about this division. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Kenny Golladay. Like, there's a lot in the NFC East. Forget about everybody else around the NFL. A lot in this division you got to cover. I would love corner at number 12. And if they move up, I wouldn't be surprised if they're moving up for a corner. Whether it's be Surtain or just to make sure the Cowboys don't grab a J.C. Horn. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved up for a cornerback. I mean, that would absolutely be a play I could see here. But I'd rather trade back. There's I think Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated said something to the effect of, like, don't be surprised if the Eagles move back and end up with Elijah Vera Tucker offensive lineman out of USC or a Rashawn Slater. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, if there's one name that will get this city most upset, and I don't know why, and it's not about the player himself. He's probably going to turn out to be a good player. But doesn't it just feel like the Eagles trading back and grabbing a Pac-12 guard, the Tucker kid out of USC? Isn't that the one? Is that the one? Like, the Eagles go from 6 to 12 to 15, and they end up with a guard out of USC, out of the Pac-12. Like, that would be the one to get everyone upset. David said Slay was put on an island against receivers that could beat anybody. Let's not lose sight of that. Cover 2 will help corners immensely. I agree with the last part. Cover 2 will. But Darius Slay was paid to cover those wide receivers, and he can't do it. Like, Darius Slay, that's his job, is to cover those guys. And he's not the player he used to be 3 or 4 years ago. We're going to have to live with that. He may end up still being a good Eagle, but he's not a great player. I mean, he's just no part of me watched him last year was like, wow, he's a great player. Also, big play Slay, and all year long we're not seeing big plays. So I was disappointed in Darius Slay's play last year. Ian said offensive lineman or go with defensive cornerback. Let's be logical. Yes, I like that. Wayne said if they wanted to stay in the top 10, then Howie shouldn't have traded away the 6th pick. I disagree with that because it's a net gain at the end of the day. That was Wayne. It's a net gain. If the Eagles go from 6 to 12, get a first-round pick to do it, and then move from 12 to 8 and trade away a second-round pick, they won. Like, if they get a player they wanted and would have taken at 6, they won that transaction. Let me touch on Howie Roseman here for a couple minutes. I mean, Howie Roseman has become enemy number 1 in Philadelphia. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing with Howie Roseman and what has happened here in the transformation. You know, I would say 3 or so years ago, Howie Roseman, you know, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Next year comes along, next offseason, the moves started coming in. I was not sure about what they were doing. I thought they were keeping too many older players, not really turning the roster over, clinging to hope those guys could win again. And I was critical of Howie Roseman. And I was told over and over again by caller after caller on WIP that I was being too hard on Howie. I was being a hater. Howie won the Super Bowl. Howie's a great executive, executive of the year. The tide has turned so far now that I'm the one, apparently, that has become this Howie defender. Here's how I review Howie Roseman. He is not an awful executive. He's not. Like you could type he is. You could tell me I'm a moron. He's not. He's also not close to a great one. He's probably somewhere in the middle. I think he's had a good offseason. And I know last night the Phillies game, there were the fire Howie chants. Like, Howie Roseman's not getting fired. He's not getting fired. And I don't think the Eagles are doomed because Howie Roseman is here. And I look at this offseason. This has been a good one. Agree, disagree. Howie's had a good offseason here. He moved down from 6 to 12, got a first-round pick. He was able to trade away Carson Wentz and get a first-round pick. And, potentially, he's got to play 75% stats, but, they got a first and a third for Carson Wentz coming off of a horrific season in which he was one of the worst quarterbacks in pro football. So they got a lot. They signed a linebacker on a one-year deal. Good move. They signed a safety on a one-year deal coming off a great year a couple years ago. Great move. They restructured deals, and other than Slay, I'm not worried about any of those restructures come back to bite them. They've got a accomplished backup in here now in Joe Flacco. Like, they did a lot this offseason, and they're in position now with 20 picks over the next 2 drafts to really add to this team. I don't know if Howie's going to hit those picks. I mean, you could say he's not. I could say maybe. Well, I don't know. We'll see what they turn out to be. But this offseason, like from when the season ended to now, I think Howie Roseman has done a good job in putting this franchise and trying to put this franchise kind of back on track. And, yeah, I'm not a fire Howie guy. Not now. He's going to steward this rebuild. In 2 years, if they completely still stink and they stay at 4-11-1 in that range, he's going to be gone. And we'll all know he can't he can't fix it again. But I've watched Howie Roseman fix the Eagles before. I think he could fix it again. You thinking Howie had a good offseason shows you should be fired with him. Why did he not have a good offseason? Like, what move this offseason was a bad move? Because he won the trade with the Dolphins. Like, that is great value to move from 6 to 12. Carson Wentz, bad quarterback. Get a first-round pick and a third-round pick for a bad quarterback. An expensive one, by the way. Great trade. Like, these are good moves. Not one of the free agents signed was to a bad contract. All one-year kind of deals. The restructures all kept them under the cap. Like, the Eagles didn't have to lose one significant player this offseason they wanted to keep to get under the cap despite being $40 million over because of the pandemic and the loss of revenue and also, Wentz requesting out and the dead cap hit. So, like, all that stuff they did. Howie did. I think he had a good offseason here. Just as the 2023 cap will be awful, Howie just pushing money down the road. I don't think that at all. They're going to have a lot of cap room. Remember, they have a young quarterback now in Jalen Hurts. So that's going to change the equation of the salary cap, and the cap's going to explode in a couple of years with the new TV deals. Lee said, Howie paid Alshon $15 million to catch 5 balls last year and Slay $16 million for 1 interception. Bad contract, salary cap mismanagement, and horrible drafts, the reason why Howie should not be here anymore. Yeah, I think the salary cap stuff is way overblown. Way overblown. I mean, yeah, I agree on the Alshon thing. That was a bad contract. The Slay did not play well enough last year. I agree. The only reason the Eagles had a bad salary cap situation was for 2 reasons. Number one, the pandemic. We could blame Howie for a lot, not blame him for the pandemic. That's out of the Eagles general manager's hands. And the other one is Carson Wentz. When they signed Carson, I believe they looked at this offseason and the way that contract was structured, they were going to restructure his deal to clear a bunch of money out. it ends up going the complete opposite way. He was awful last season and asked out, creating a dead cap hit. So instead of saving money on Carson's contract, they had to eat money on Carson's contract. I think it changed the whole equation. I'm not, the one thing I don't worry about Howie Roseman is salary cap stuff. And even this offseason, they were 40 or 50 over, and like that, they were under. Like we can worry about how he's drafting. That's what we need to worry about. Salary cap stuff, that's not the worry here. Like, he's good at that stuff. And David said, I think Howie is good at everything except drafting, and that is a huge, huge problem. Yes. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, that is the problem. It's not the salary cap stuff. Matt said, this, of course, coming from a Kapler guy. Don't believe the hype, everyone. Love Gabe Kapler. That was my guy. By the way, he has completely outmanaged Joe Girardi since Gabe went to San Francisco and Girardi got here. I mean, those facts are the facts on that one. But anyway, let's not talk about Gabe. This is an Eagles draft story here. This is an Eagles draft chat video. All right. Excuse me. So the fire Howie chants last night, not surprising, but it's a waste of breath. He's not going anywhere, especially now. Like, Howie Roseman's not getting fired now. Maybe after next season, if they go 3-14 or whatever. He's not going anywhere now. So trade up or trade down. Leave your comments in the section here, comment section. I'm interested to see, would you rather trade up or trade down? So basically the equation would be trade up and give up a second-round pick to move from 12 to 8, or trade down and go from 12 to 15 and maybe get an extra third or so, like something like that. Would you rather trade up, give up assets, but maybe get the guy Surtain you're hoping for, or move back down a little bit and have more ammunition? I'd rather move back down. Instead of moving back up, Kyle Pitts is the only guy I'd move up for. And I love J.C. Horn. I think there's a chance he's going to be there at 12. But Kyle Pitts, if somehow he fell down the board, that's the guy I would trade up for. I think he's just a special player. I think he's going to end up as the best non-quarterback in the entire draft. So I would trade up for Kyle Pitts. Other than that, though, I'm trading back. What do we got here? Let's check out the comment section. You leave your comments. We will chat here as we do these draft shows. And I can't wait. Next Thursday night, myself, Glenn Macnow, Ike Reese. I could be missing a couple names, but I'm sure a cast of characters will be part of the show. I'm sure Elliott Parks will be as well through the first round as we await and we react to the Eagles draft pick, wherever it is. Right now it's number 12, which I would think around 9:15-ish on next Thursday night. We get an Eagles draft pick. If they stay at number 12, it could be earlier. If they trade up, it could be later, like it was last year around 20. If they don't, Troy said, do what you can do and everything will fall in place. Stay at the same spot and not give up anything unless necessary. So Troy doesn't want to move around, wants to kind of stay at number 12. I like the action of draft night. Like the teams that move up, move down. The Eagles have historically been one of those teams. I think that stuff is awesome. And I think the coolest part of draft night and draft talk and watching it play out is, like, which GMs have a good sense or a good guess on what everybody else around the league is thinking or might do. Like, that is how you win. Like, I don't know what the Eagles know or what they think they might know, but really, I mean, that's how you do it. Like, if the Eagles know that the 2 or 3 teams after them, what they're taking, right? Like, and they don't like those players. And they're on the board at 12, and the Patriots want to come up from 15 because they want a quarterback. Or the Cardinals at 16 want to jump up because they want Jalen Waddle, right? And the Eagles say, we can move down 3 or 4 spots, and we know the player we would take right now is going to be there anyway because we know what those other teams are going to do. That's just good business. Like, that's a way to stockpile assets that, we don't even think about it, but 2 years from now, if the Eagles are good, maybe the 2023's Jay Ajayi, remember that deal, it comes from that draft pick they get from that kind of trade. Like, that's the kind of stuff that good forward-thinking organizations do. I hope the Eagles do it. David said, Joe, can you explain to me how it would make sense to trade back into the top 10 like some rumors are saying? Wouldn't you have to give up one of the first-round picks you just acquired to do so? No, David, I don't believe you would. First of all, the Eagles would not move as high, right? They're not going to move into the top 5. They're not going to move back to their own pick at 6. So whatever they trade to, it would be less of a jump than the Dolphins made from 12 to get to 6. And also, if you read any of the stories on that trade or looked at the draft chart, the Dolphins overpaid. The Dolphins overpaid to go from 12 to 6. The Eagles made out strong. I do not believe they would have to give up a first-round pick to move back up. Now, Carolina is the team out there that everyone says they're in business. They'll trade back. They're at 8. My guess is, and I did see our guy Elliott Parks guess this as well, My guess is to get from 12 to 8, the Eagles would have to go up a second-round pick. So they'd have earned a first, given back a second to be at number 8. Justin said, I just don't think Howie can undo this mess. We need a real GM to come in and not take orders from Jeffrey and not to have more than one draft board. Need to get off of Howie's past success. It's not happening. And I understand the point, but this is the way the Eagles are run. And it's funny, we ignore the fact they've had success doing it this way. It's almost like I don't believe in that strategy. It'll never work, except we're ignoring it has worked. Trust me, if I had my way, this would not be the setup. Jeffrey Lurie would have nothing to do with it. They'd have a football guy in there. It would be different. But that's not what the Eagles have. I think it's ironic that we're forgetting this team won a championship doing it this way. Like, it wasn't different a few years ago. Jeffrey Lurie was involved. We just didn't realize how involved. Howie Roseman was doing Howie Roseman things. They just were working. And the coach and the GM and the owner were all kind of on the same page, and it worked. So as much as we're frustrated now with all these stories coming out, I don't think it's much different. So to say it can never work, it's ignoring that in 2017, this way, like this organizational ethos, the way they did things, it built the best team in pro football. So you may question, can they do it again, right? Can lightning strike twice again? I don't know. But it happened. I mean, it happened already. Yeah, the Dolphins absolutely overpaid. How could you get excited with the draft knowing we have an incompetent GM who sucks? Andrew, I get excited because it's the Eagles. I get excited because it's the NFL draft. And I get excited because we've totally overblown how bad this team is. It's amazing. Actually, I guess I don't have to do this. I do this on the radio sometimes. You ever hear me? When I get frustrated or loud, I go like this into the microphone. It's video. I don't have to do that. We've totally overblown how bad the Eagles are. We've totally overblown how bad this whole thing is. They've had one bad year. One bad year. 13-3, 9-7, 9-7, 4-11-1. There's one bad year in their last 4. They had made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Like, I'm not going to let my excitement for the Eagles go off the board because of one bad year. Because if that was the case, I would have felt the same thing in Andy's last year. Like, oh my goodness, I'm done with the Eagles. Yet the next year they won the NFC East and hosted a playoff game in Chip Kelly's first year. Like, if you go back, they were as bad or worse Andy's last year as they were last year. Very similar kind of records and point differentials, actually worse than Andy's last year. Injuries on the offensive line. It looked like a dumpster fire. Andy's gone. Chip Kelly's here. They started off slow. I mean, no one thought that was going to end the way it did. It's pro football. Like, teams turn around fast, and especially teams that have track records of winning like the Eagles obviously do. Just said, I love my Eagles no matter what. I'll stay by them. I just don't like what's going on. I'll win or lose. I bleed green. Well, I respect that. Like, I think we all feel that way. Are you saying that you think we'll compete this year? I like your optimism, Joe. I do. Now, do I think they're going to compete to go to a Super Bowl? No. But this year reminds me of 2016 a little bit, where Doug's first year, Carson's first year, you can kind of parallel that to, Jalen getting a shot, and now Nick Sirianni as head coach. But in the NFC East, there's no reason they can't compete. Like, which team's running away with this? The Giants? They haven't been good for a decade. The Cowboys, with that defense? And I have to see Dak Prescott coming off his injury before I feel like he's going to be back at a very high level. I respect the heck out of Dak. I think he's a tremendous quarterback, but that's a big-time injury to expect him just like, oh, I'm back. So I don't know about the Cowboys either. And as far as Washington, nobody's won this division in back-to-back years since the 03-04 Eagles. So do I think they're going to go to the playoffs? If I had to guess right now, I would say no. Do I think they're going to go over their 6.5 win total? Yes. Do I think they're going to compete and be in some sort of mix in a mediocre NFC East? Absolutely. I mean, there's no question. I mean, the Eagles they'll not be as bad as the projections say. They're very rarely a bad football team, year in, year out. Even when they have these down periods, they're not. But the big question now is going to be trade up or trade back. If I had to guess right now, I would guess the Eagles are not going to stay at number 12. So leave your comments, and I'll go back, read them over the course of the night, and check them out. I'll be doing some of these draft shows again next week as we get closer to the first round, and I can't wait. Please be tuning in. Last year was one of my favorite shows of the year and one of our most listened to. And by the way, thank you guys for listening to WIP. Even if you're just someone who kind of reads our stuff or catches our stuff, mostly on the Facebook page, listen, the Odyssey app. Love for you to be part of our community here. And next Thursday, we're doing a live draft show all night long. Glenn Macna, myself, Grease, Elliot Shore-Parks. I'm sure a whole bunch of other insiders will hop on and off and our host. But it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. The first round of the NFL draft next week. And my guess is the Eagles will not sit at number 12. I could see a trade up, maybe 8, maybe 9. I could see a trade back. The way the quarterbacks play itself out will factor in because, if quarterbacks are there, a team like Denver is probably going to move out or move up, right? And maybe Detroit moves out because someone wants to go in for a quarterback. So things are going to move and shake. The more quarterbacks high, obviously, the better for the Eagles because it pushes a bunch of really good players down the board. Last one we'll hit on tonight. Andrew said, I pray Jalen plays great because if he doesn't, I expect him to be ran out of town. Well, he should be, right? I mean, why do we want bad quarterbacks? Like, it's not about running out of town. I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. If he doesn't play well, they're going to replace him, as they should. I mean, it's not like a scholarship program, right? It's the NFL. It's the Eagles. It's the quarterback of the Eagles. So I'm a believer in Jalen Hurts. I saw today Boston Scott said he's never leaves the building. He's a tireless worker. I love the kid's attitude. I like his skill set, leadership. I'm in. I'm a Hurts guy, and I hope he succeeds. And I think he's going to surprise us. Thank you so much for watching. Be back doing this soon. Leave those comments, questions. I'll go back and read them. Maybe I'll talk about them on the air tomorrow night on WIP. Thank you for watching.